Hey, what's going on, guys? Dots here, and today I'm bringing you an updated version of my settings and performance guide for Black Desert Online. So I made this video when I came back to BDO, just to kind of show everybody what I was running when I first returned to the game. But the more I've played and the more I've kind of got back into the game, now that I've been back for a couple of months now, my settings and stuff have evolved over time, especially things outside of the game. I've done a lot of changes outside of my game to, like, you know, my computer and to my Nvidia profile. And so today I want to show you guys all of those different things that I have done so that you can make sure your game does run as smoothly as possible. To me, like, this has been the best cross between my game looking good as well as having good performance inside of Node Wars that I've been able to achieve. So I am very happy with these settings so far and how they have been working. So hopefully, if you guys, have been running my old profile and you want to see what I am running now, update to these settings and hopefully your game will run even a little bit better than last time. So we're going to kick it off with the in-game settings first, and then we're going to move to all the out-of-game settings afterwards. So starting off with the in-game settings, for performance settings, I am running texture clarity on high, or texture quality on high. This is because if you run it any lower, the game actually has to use like resources to actually scale the texture quality down, so I do recommend running it on high. For graphics, I'm no longer running it on Fxaa Remastered mode. Instead, we are just running it on medium instead. I found that to perform a little bit better. Also, because there isn't like the, extreme scaling or anti-aliasing, as you can see, the game does look a lot sharper. So depending on, how you like your game to look, you might even like this a little bit better. Obviously, you do miss some of the flare and effects on, certain things, and you are missing some, some graphical things like, your plants at your farms might not have as much detail, but I've been liking this a lot. Games run a little bit better too. It's also easier to see in PvP, not on remastered, and even if it's Fxaa Remastered, it's running on medium, so medium has been working well for me. If your PC is a little bit better than mine, you can either run on slightly high or high if you want to, but for me, medium has been like the best cross between the game looking good and performing well. I do run Fxaa Anti-Aliasing here. We do have SSAO turned on. I do have display filter, faraway objects, and depth of field turned off. Faraway NPCs turned on. Hit effects turned off. And reduce snow buildup turned on. For optimization, we do not run auto frame optimization. We are no longer using FSR either. Definitely turn off low power mode. You want to make sure your game is getting as much, juice as possible to make sure it's running as good as it can. Speaking of which, we also want to turn performance optimization on. This will raise your memory usage to optimize game performance. So basically, your computer will use more resources to make sure that your game runs really, really well. So definitely turn this on. We also do have attack decisions and miss effect turned on. I also do now turn on effect optimization, and I put this around the N or the G of setting. I find that to be the best between, again, being able to see all of your opponent's effects while, it does turn some off if you are in the heat of combat. I know some people just, don't run this, or they just turn other adventurers' effects off, but I personally find it helpful to see them. So I just use the effect optimization to kind of make sure we don't have too much going on the screen. And we also do use hide other adventurers, because it will only hide them depending on the situation. So this just makes sure that maybe if you're in a town or something, there's just way too many people on the screen, it will hide some of them. For siege, you might need to turn this off, but for the most part, I do leave this on 99% of the time. Do not do anything with camera and performance. So I just have camera vision range at 100. Actually, that is what I did. So we extended the FOV all the way up to 100. Really, really helpful for PvP. It might take a little bit of getting used to at first, because you might feel a little bit fishbowly, but it really, really helps when you're PvPing. And then we have overall camera effect turned down to 0. Workers and pets, we have hide certain NPCs turned on. If the NPC has nothing to do with anything, I don't need to see him, so I have it turned off. I also have my pets turned off as well. For display settings and game window, I run in windowed full screen at the moment, just because I do stream and I have, a lot of things running on my computer. I got 4 monitors and stuff. But if you are only playing BDO and not really doing anything else, you're going to want to run the game on full screen. It will run better at dedicated full screen. But for me, I do have to run it at windowed full screen. I'm also on a 1440p monitor, so I do run that for my resolution. UI scale at 100. And then I actually have started using crop mode. I find crop mode to be really, really good. You sacrifice basically nothing of importance on your screen to actually gain a ton of performance. So basically what I did is that I just cropped the height ever so slightly so that it was just above where my ability bars are. And like if I'm attacking an enemy and their health bar is over here, it's like their health bar comes right to this part of the screen, and then the buffs are shown right underneath it, so it looks nice and clean. And by sacrificing these amount of pixels on your screen, you do gain quite a lot of performance benefit. So I definitely recommend turning this on and doing a very, very, very small crop, because you barely miss out on any game window, but you gain a lot of performance. Now, display quality, we kind of talked about these settings earlier. This is pretty much more of the same. Show blood spatter and bloodstains I do have turned off. No auto frame optimization. Again, I do not turn on remove others effects. I do want to see them, especially for PvP, but we do use the effect optimization. I do have remove far away effects turned on, though. Don't need to see those. They're far away. I don't care, so I do turn that on. For effects, we have gamma at 0, contrast at 0, effect opacity is at 70, and combat focus is at 100. Just because I do want to see those effects, I want to make sure I can see through them a little bit, so I do have it at about 70%. Camera graphics, again, this is at 100. Overall camera effects is 0, vibrations at 0, blur effects at 10, camera angle and camera zoom up both at 50. For audio settings, I do have whisper alert, nearby music turned on, system sound tray off, combat music off, NPC voice language is English, my over volume is 22 just because, again, I do stream, and then everything else is just, I think, pretty much default. For quality of life, I do have aim assistance turned on. This helps you automatically aim at your target. I did turn off combat assistance because I had a lot of situations where it was like targeting the wrong character or the wrong thing with my skills, so I found it really annoying, so I turned it off. We do have quick slot turned on. This separates each quick slot to be kind of, be able to do this with our UI, so you definitely want to turn that on. And then I use strong sword for the font. For show and hide, I do view my character name, always show. HP gauge, always show family name. And then I have all of these turned on except for show ranking and RBF points. I have those turned off. Down for characters, I have everything turned on except for amity status. I did turn that off. We do hide pets, hide fairy. I do want to see others' campsites. I also do want to show the custom HP bar. That is this thing at the bottom here, so you do want to turn that on. And then for show and hide, I turn everything on with the exception of combo video guide. Now, alerts, this is where all your alerts are, so if you get annoyed by all those things that pop up at the top of your screen, as something pops up right there, you can basically turn all of those off. I do have zone change turned on and fitness level turned on, as well as black spirit alerts turned on, but literally everything else here I have turned off. For the world map, I do no animation at the default angle. That makes it so that when you hit M, it doesn't do that giant wind-up animation to get into the map. I found that super annoying, so I do have that turned off. For language, I do have, obviously, English on everything. For interface, there was something that I missed here for quality of life that I know I have. Okay, the biggest thing that I turned here with all the show and hide, one of the biggest changes, like I said, I do have, ranking RBF points turned off as well as amity status turned off. One of the biggest things that I turned on was show stacked HP bar. This is extremely helpful for when you're fighting enemies, because when you go into a fight with somebody, if you don't have this turned on, you just see their red HP bar, you have no idea how much health they have. They could have, only a tiny bit of health, or they could just be juiced up with a ton of HP. But showing a stacked HP bar will show you how many increments of 1,000 HP that your opponent has. So it makes it a lot easier to judge how tanky your opponent is when you're going into a fight with them. So I find this extremely useful and do recommend turning it on. And I'm pretty sure that kind of covers 99% of my in-game settings. Now, the biggest thing that I changed going from my previous game settings to my current ones was mostly the things that I did outside of the game. Now, I do need to give credit to all of these performance tips going to a Canadian dude and his ultimate BDO performance guide, which I will link in the description below. But I'm just going to talk about what parts of his guide that I use to help me with my game, so that, maybe you guys can try to copy just what I've done. But if you want to go at it yourself, my portion of my settings will end here, and his guide, that ultimate performance guide, will be linked in the description below. So the first thing I'm going to recommend everybody do is you need to have BDO at least on a solid state drive or those new NVMe drives. Running BDO off of an HDD is just asking for trouble. You're just asking for freezing and problems. So this game has to run on an SSD at a minimum. They're not that expensive right now, so try to get one if you possibly can. You're also going to want to do a couple of things in your Nvidia control panel. If you do have an AMD graphics card, again, refer to the Ultimate Performance Guide linked in the description below. But for those of you with Nvidia, you're going to want to disable vertical sync. You're going to want to turn on threaded optimization and change your power management mode to adaptive. You're also going to, like I said earlier, want to run your game full screened if at all possible, just so that, you know, the game runs better in full screen versus windowed full screen, so do run it there if possible. You're also going to want to download a program called Nvidia Profile Inspector, which again I will link in the description below, and basically it allows you to kind of change more in-depth settings inside of your Nvidia profiles for specific games. So once you download that program, you're going to want to change the game specifically to Black Desert, and then you're going to want to change the following. You're going to want to turn on threaded optimization if you have more than 6 cores in your CPU. Otherwise, turn it off if there's less. I would also recommend disabling Ansel. Also, there is something called the shader cache. You're going to want to try messing with this to see if there is a performance adjustment. Some people will get better performance with it off. Some people will get a better performance with it on. I personally do have it set to on. Now, the biggest change that I actually made with BDO that improved my performance tenfold, and so many people who I've recommended this to have also reported the same, is having BDO launch and run off of specific cores in your processor. So Black Desert Online doesn't like running off of too many cores, so reducing them will help. However, you do need to do this in a way that is particular to your CPU. So the first step is figuring out which cores that you need to use for your CPU, and you need a value known as an affinity mask to tell you your PC which ones you want to use. Now, I'll put some common values on the screen right now for a variety of AMD processors, which is what I personally have. I'm running a 2700X, but if you do have an Intel processor, you're going to, again, want to refer to the Ultimate Performance Guide linked in the description. Now, once you have figured out which is your affinity mask, you're going to want to create a batch file. So in a text document, you're going to want to put the following: cd/d, and then your path to BDO in quotes. So whatever your file path is to BDO, you're going to want to put it there. Then you're going to want to do start/affinity space, then the affinity mask number from the chart that I showed on the screen, and then blackdesertlauncher.exe. You're going to save this file as whatever you want, so you can do something like bdo.bat, for example. You're going to want to place that batch file in your BDO game directory, and then create a shortcut on your desktop. So that's going to be like now your icon for whenever you want to play BDO. You double click that, and you will have it set to run on the correct cores. Now, to check if this is working, once you do this with BDO, you're going to want to open your task manager. So that is going to be Control-Alt-Delete, task manager, find blackdesert64.exe in your processes tab after you've launched the game using the script. Right click on blackdesert64.exe and click set affinity. And then only the cores that you want to use, you've wanted to use, should be enabled in that visual screen that you have. You can't do it here because it'll flag the easy anti-cheat, so you do need to do it in a script instead of just doing it here. This is just how we can check if it is working. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to do is download a program called Intelligent Standby List Cleaner, which again, I will link in the description below. This will clean up the memory leak that BDO has so that you don't need to constantly restart your game. I personally just use the default values for this program, but you can adjust them to your preference. The only other two things I would recommend doing are turning off link state power management in your PC's power settings, and then turning off Windows 10 game mode. Now, the final thing that I'm going to recommend for you guys today is to just clean up your UI a bit. So what I personally have for my UI here is that I have my skill cooldowns here on the left. I have other cooldowns here just so I can track specific cooldowns. My item drop log, buff list, stamina, HP bar, BSR. Again, I do auto align slot and custom HP bar to give me the appearance of my user interface here. And so then I have everything. I have like a bunch of skill slots here. My quest widget, my main quest. I have 2 chats over here. The big thing that I'm going to recommend that you guys do from a performance perspective is just make sure that you have as minimal things on your screen as possible. BDO's UI is not really the most friendly when it comes to performance. So having, I would say, 2 chat windows or less is going to be really, really good. You could also potentially use the 3D minimap if you want to up here. This gives a little bit more performance. I personally hate how it looks, so I just use the 2D one. But again, minimizing your UI as much as possible will also help make sure your game runs as good as it can. Now, once you are done with all of this, if you want to save your settings, what I'm going to recommend doing is going to Settings Archive and then clicking Upload. This will upload your settings to BDO to make sure that they are saved. Then when you have everything set up exactly how you want it, you're going to want to hit Escape, disconnect and disconnect from the game. This will hard save all of your settings, and then you can reload, because the thing is that if you do all of this and for some reason you disconnect not through this method, your settings will be wiped out. So you do need to make sure that you basically hard save this, and then at that point you'll pretty much be good to go. But guys, that is going to be it for me today on my updated BDO performance guide. Hopefully you guys did find this helpful, and if you did, I would really appreciate if you left a like on it. Again, huge shout out to a Canadian dude and his fantastic ultimate performance guide. It's made a huge difference in my game. So, you know, if you guys do want to see what other settings you can potentially do from that guide, like I said, it is linked in the description below. If you guys want to see more BDO beginner guides as well, you can hit that sub button as well as hit the bell to keep the notifications on. And any questions about my settings, feel free to leave them below. So guys, I appreciate y'all hanging out and stopping by today. Thank you very much. As always, I'm Dots Gaming, and I'll see you all in the next video.